Welcome to La Verdad Duele. What is that? The truth. The truth that hurts. Even though we're not intending to hurt anybody's feelings, we know that we may share information that many people have strong opinions on. This is solely based on the fact that we love sharing information and we love passing that knowledge. And this podcast is all about that. And we hope you can enjoy that. Let's get to it. Welcome, Puyaka. All right, today we have a special guest in the studio, somebody that I have looked up to since my senior year of high school, a mentor to me. A mentor to me is a trusted advisor, somebody that I can lean on, somebody that has gone through experiences that I'm either going through or will be going through in the future, somebody that I trusted that when they give me their words of wisdom is something that is useful to me, either in life or just in regular day-to-day decisions making. And so this is somebody that is a young woman who I call young and accomplished. And the scary thing is that she's just beginning and the sky is going to be the limit for her. And she is doing an amazing work. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even introduced to you this mentor of mine. So now let me go briefly into her bio before I invited her to the studio. Her name is Bianca Alba. She is a public health advisor for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention based in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Her current role at the dengue branch consists of providing technical assistance on grants, cooperative agreements, and other awards to assist in meeting the branch's mission and vision. In some of her daily tasks, in 2016 for the Zika response in San Juan, Puerto Rico, she was a staffing coordinator. In March 2020, for COVID-19, she was deployed to JFK Airport in New York as a tertiary screener. And most recently, in May 2020, she was again deployed for COVID-19 to Salisbury, Maryland, where she served as a health communication specialist working on contract tracing with poultry factory workers. Bianca is a proud first-generation Latina who received her Bachelor of Science Community Health from George Mason University in 2011. After graduating, she worked as a program coordinator for a nonprofit in DC called Lutheran Social Services. And then she decided that was not enough. So she went back to school for her master's in public health. She earned her Master's of Public Health from her alma mater, George Mason University, in 2015. Upon receiving her MPH, she was accepted into a competitive fellowship program with CDC called PHAP, which means Public Health Associate Program, where her public health journey began. She proudly represents the hashtag Team Public Health. She's well invested into the community, as well as the community is invested in her, and we are extremely proud of her. She has led many efforts, including raising money and helping to rebuild homes for families in need during the recent Puerto Rico earthquakes. She is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my mentor, Bianca Alba, to the studio.
Puyaka, woo!
That's right. As you can tell, you can tell that she works in the community because she got the energy of a cheerleader and she celebrates all the time. How you doing, Miss Alba?
Tajani, I am so excited to be here. First off, thank you so much for the invite. Despite everything going on in this world, it is such a pleasure to be here to share, this moment with you.
That's awesome. The pleasure is mine, and the pleasure is the pleasure of the fans of LVD, which is La Verdad Duele Podcast. And we are happy to have you. So before the topics we're going to be discussing, because you are a young and accomplished young woman and you are just beginning. So we have so many things we could discuss with you, but we're going to narrow it down and just talk briefly about your current work as a public health advisor. And then after that, we're going to go into the main topic of the day about mentorship. So can you please tell us briefly, what do you do with the CDC?
Sure, Johnny. So like you mentioned, I'm a public health advisor based in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So CDC's headquarters are in Atlanta, but my branch is located in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The beautiful thing about CDC is that there's offices all over the states, state territories, and different parts of the country. So I'm really lucky to be in a beautiful, beautiful island that I love so much and I get to call home. So my day-to-day tasks change. They are very different, and it also depends on what's going on in the world. So as you know, COVID has recently, been a big part of the news, the world, and so I've been able to go on different deployments. Like you mentioned, I was in Salisbury, Maryland this past month doing contracting tracing, working with different epidemiologists. And for those who don't know what epidemiology is, it's basically the science of to track data, to trying to figure out where the pandemics and the outbreaks are happening. Public health is just so broad, and I think when I was younger, I didn't really know even public health existed or what it really meant. So now that I work for CDC, and I've been working for CDC for 5 years, it's opened my eyes to so many things because there's so many titles. And I think especially reflecting on my branch, my colleagues, we all wear so many different hats.
That's amazing. Yeah, public health is huge. How did you even get into it?
Oh, well, that is a journey of itself, but I will definitely talk about, post first, I'm a first generation Latina student, so I got my bachelor degree in community health, and I kind of was like, all right, what's next? And I think that's the norm. A lot of us are like, okay, we graduated and we think that we're going to have a package and everything ready, set for us, but that's not the story. You kind of have to do, you have to get your feet wet. And so I ended up working with a nonprofit, and I did not have no idea what I was doing. But my nonprofit job opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't realize were such importance. And so I was working as a program coordinator for Lutheran Social Services, and basically they provided camps for kids and teens that were infected or affected with somebody who had HIV and AIDS.
Wow.
And she became my mentor. My boss became my mentor, and she just kind of talked to me about hey, you should really go back to school. I know you just graduated, but you should really look into a master's program and go back right when you can. And so I was like, you know what? I didn't want to go back to school. I was like, who wants to go back to school? But I was like, I think this is the right choice. So I looked into the public health route. I saw the master's program, and I applied to a lot of different schools, but I ended up going back to my alma mater. And I think that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, because I met already so many people when I was an undergrad there. So I had so many connections. And then when I was in school, I was able to utilize those connections. I was able to get these phenomenal internships. And so I definitely want to highlight two. The first one is HACU, which stands for Hispanic Association for Colleges and Universities. So you can be an undergrad or a grad student, and they will pay a full internship for you to go to an organization. So I did actually my internship in Atlanta when I was in grad school for about a semester, and they gave me a stipend, they helped me pay for my living, and it's a great opportunity. So through that opportunity, I learned, firsthand in CDC, what fellowship programs were available for when I was going to graduate, what was the route that I could take, what were some roles that I could, take. And so it gave me the opportunity to network. And I always tell people, network. And it's so important to build those relationships. So it's not just getting to know the people, but it's actually building them. And when I finished my MPH, I applied for this competitive program called PHAP, and that was really my ticket in. I was able to get into the CDC with that fellowship program. It's 2 years, so if you Google PHAP, it'll tell you everything about public health and how you can get into the program and what it's about. But that's honestly where my public health career started.
That's amazing. Wow. So you mentioned briefly about how public health has so many things going for it. It has so many doors. It has so many fields. Can you mention some of the things associated with public health other than being a doctor or a nurse?
Sure. So I think it's very important, especially to talk about, just kind of a background within the, the Latino community, the community of color, because growing up, and at least in my family, it was kind of like, all right, you're going to be a doctor.
Right.
Like, that's all but that's all that they knew. And like, so when I started school, like, disclaimer, when I started like as an undergrad, I don't even know if you know this, I changed my major 3 times.
Wow.
So I started as a bio major, and then I soon figured out I did not like taking 4 to 5 sciences, and I even failed. I failed a class, being vulnerable out here. I never thought I would ever fail a class, but literally an F. And so I was like, maybe science is not for me. And then I ended up going into nursing because I was like, well, I can't be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor anymore. So let me do nursing. And I just did not like it. And at first I want to applaud all the doctors and the nurses and all the first responders that are working so hard right now. But that was just not my field. And it opened my eyes to a lot of other things, such as global health.
Right.
And when I first was studying it, I didn't really understand it. And I'll be straight up with you all. I was like, what am I going to do with this? And that's why, honestly, I went back to school and pursued my master's. And that's where I learned a lot about the different fields, how, the people who do the investigations, who find out, what is going on in the world. Like how I describe it now, especially to my family that is, non-English speaking, what I do, I tell them I'm like Carmen Sandiego, but for diseases.
Okay.
So we do case investigations. We try to find like where the outbreaks happen, who, what, where is involved. And that's just, just a brief, overview, but there's just so many things. Like we have, in our branch in particular in Puerto Rico, we have entomologists, and they work specifically with mosquitoes. So they're like scientists based off mosquitoes. And before, even like 5-10 years ago, you asked me if I knew what an entomologist was, I would have been like, what? I was like, and then if you still asked me when I was in school, I would have been like, why are they important?
Right.
But if you live in Puerto Rico, or if you know anything about mosquitoes, dengue, chikungunya, and Zika are horrible, and they all come from this one little mosquito. So
that's crazy. For me, I'm from West Africa, Sierra Leone. So something that is common over there is the malaria, and so I'm pretty sure that is also a public health issue in especially in West Africa, Sierra Leone, because of the gutters, because of the waters, just nasty water in the gutters, and then mosquitoes come over there and create their own home, and then they started just causing trouble in the communities. And so that reminds me, while you were describing the dengue fever and the other diseases, it just reminds me of West Africa and the malaria.
I always tell people there's so many similarities. Like, even though, I know Puerto Rico is not, a third world country or anything, but, there's a lot of, poverty and a lot of like lack of education, and something as simple as that, like what you mentioned to Johnny, like people keep water in these pots and these tires that are outside of their homes, and that's what unfortunately causes these mosquitoes to breed. Yeah,
and the sad thing about public health is something that is preventable. There are things that people could do to protect their communities, but a lot of our communities, the places that we come from, is the problem is lack of resources and lack of information. Yeah. And that's where public health officials like yourself come in to pass out the information and making sure that the people have access to basic information.
Yeah, no, that's the goal. That's always the goal. I always tell people, but I also think it's so important to also work with community leaders and people who are in the community. And that's something I know for a fact that we lack in general. But I'd like my example, these past couple weeks when I was in Maryland working with the poultry farm workers, there was a huge Haitian Creole population.
Wow.
Like huge. Like I didn't even know there were so many Haitians in the United States. And in this little, town, they make up most of the employee rate. And so most of them just speak Haitian Creole. Most of them are, the culture base of the Haitian Creole. They're very into just their group. So to try to get them information about COVID, we want to be culturally competent. We want to be careful with this stuff. And that's something that I feel so many organizations need to realize and need to educate themselves and need to, be open and mindful to getting those community leaders involved.
Awesome. So yeah, we just discussed briefly about what you're currently doing. And so, like I said, our main topic would be mentorship. And so when you hear the word mentor, what comes to your mind? What does a mentor mean to you?
Well, to Johnny, so I'm the oldest of 4 girls. So, I feel as I was growing up, my mom was someone who I looked up to, right? Like I know she sacrificed so much coming to this country. We're first generation, but my mom was my role model. So I want to differentiate. I feel like role model versus a mentor, because what my mom could not provide for me is like how, like, she couldn't sit down and tell me like, this is how you build a resume. Right. This is how you budget. This is like, how like life will be. I mean, and to an extent, like I know my mom could be there, but it was other things. So for me, a mentor is someone who I can look up to in a sense where I can relate to. Like I can relate and I can count on when it comes to things such as, building my resume, finding how to, interview correctly, how to, also just learn about life, like different things. And so for me, like mentorship has been crucial within my sorority. So I want to give a shout out to my sorority Kappa Sigma Kahu.
Okay, I see what you did.
You know about cuz, okay, Tajani.
I know a thing or two about cuz.
But for real, like and it's funny when I think about my sorority too, even just like the process, like when I thought I was gonna join one, I was like, what? I already have sisters. What do I need to join a sorority for? But honestly, it was for the mentorship. Like I saw women that were in careers, they had full-time jobs, they had families, and they were bosses. And I was like, ooh, like that's who I want to be. Like, so that's what I like. When I see a mentor, I was like, that's who I want to be in the future, or has characteristics that I want to be like.
Wow, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you for making that distinction between a role model and a mentor, because I never really thought about it too deeply, but your explanation and distinction between the two really helped in understanding both of them. So I really appreciate you for that. And yeah, mentor, it's not just academics, they also help you figure out life, like how to build healthy relationships. Matter of fact, how do you know when you're in a healthy relationship? And once you establish that healthy relationship, how do you maintain that healthy relationship? So mentors, they serve you in different things. Like we said, these are people that you look up to a certain extent. You want to be those people. And so they are very, very important. Why do you think that a young person should be mentored by somebody who's experienced?
Well, I mean, just thinking of my situation and just reflecting on my life, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the mentors that have guided me. So I think that's one of the most crucial things about someone who's young and looking, for career advice or for life advice, is to really look into a mentor. Like that person can really provide those tools that you might not have, that you might not see at that time. And, my mentors have changed throughout my life too. So it's not, it's not something that you have to pick a mentor and that's your mentor for life, right?
Right.
But I think there's different stages in your life that you need different, types of mentors.
That's amazing. Yeah. So it's right, because sometimes you get to a point where you outgrew the advice of the mentor and you just have to keep moving forward. And so the young people that are coming up, it is very important to have somebody that they can look up to and somebody that trusts, that believe in them, that can tell them that, hey, what you're going through, first of all, you are not the first person to go through it. And you are not the last person to go through it. And in addition to that, you can get through it too. It just takes a matter of hard work, and you have to stay dedicated, and you have to be determined in going to the thing that you're trying to accomplish in life. And so mentors are just amazing, amazing individuals who just out of the kindness of their heart, they love sharing experiences, knowledge, and resources with young people. So once you establish those mentor and mentee relationship, right? How do you maintain it?
That's a good question, because relationships are work.
Right.
And you know this. I mean, you married, so you know what how relationships are. But I'm just saying, in general, relationships are work. And I think even the mentor and mentee relationship, that requires work. And I think what you get is what you put out, right? And so if you are a mentor, because I've been a mentor, you want to check up on your mentee, and vice versa. If your mentee, has a mentor, you want to build that relationship, ask to, you know, talk to your mentor, have daily check-ins, and have and it could be different. Like every relationship is different, but for me, I think communication, being able to build that relationship, and having those different conversations about goals, about simply what you're curious about. Like for me, like, you know, I recently actually had a conversation with one of my sorority sisters who's a doctor, and she's a doctor for a university, so she works as one of the lead positions, and we just had a conversation about the PhD program, and you know, something that has been in my thoughts and I've been interested in, but I don't really know so much. I just know like the brief, and just to talk to her about that, like just shooting her an email and be like, hey, like, do you have a couple minutes? I just want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind. Like that is a way that you can build that mentor-mentee relationship.
That's awesome. Is there a platform that helps you find mentors? How do you mentioned briefly about networking? Is that one of the ways of finding mentors, or do they just organically appear based on the relationships that you have? How do you seek a mentor? Let's say you're a middle school or high school student. How do you find a mentor?
So that's another good point to bring out, because I think it really depends on your time of your life, right? So yeah, if you are in middle school and high school, you know, I mean, we both were in a phenomenal program called Early Identification Program, EIP, and so through that program, that's where we gained the mentorship abilities. But I think nowadays, like especially in high school, like teachers can also be a great mentor. There's different guidance counselors, your coaches, and nowadays I think individuals need to individuals now are starting to do even internships when they're in high school.
Right.
So when you're interning, you know, look at those people that you're interning with, your that potential boss, the potential coworker that you can have, and honestly, it could also just be someone who's older than you, like who you look up to. They don't have to have a fancy professional title.
Right.
Like I think that's the maybe what people think when they look up, oh, I need a mentor, I need someone to like have like this specific title, and they have to be this. No, like I said, you can have different mentors for different things.
That's good. Yeah, I remember growing up, mentors, pretty much my coaches were my mentors, my teachers. I still have a relationship with my middle school teachers on Facebook. I have relationships with my high school coaches and teachers on Facebook. So every once in a while, I'll send them messages and just check on them. And so if it wasn't for my mentors, definitely I wouldn't have been where I am. Or if I was going to be where I am today, it would have taken me extra efforts to get to where I am today, and probably even longer steps for me to get to where I am today. So absolutely, mentors have played and continue to play a crucial role into my development, into my life. In fact, I mentioned in the introduction that you were one of my mentors when I was a senior in high school. How was I as a mentee?
Should I tell the listeners the truth?
Please, be real.
Be real.
The title of the podcast is La Verdad Duele, right?
Yeah, that is right.
That's right.
So I could not stand to Johnny Musa, and he knows it. Like, so I was just background. I was his mentor with the EIP Summer Academy. And so I had about like 20 to 25 students. I think it was a bunch of you guys. And you were rising seniors going into, their senior year in high school. So Tajani was one of those who was just loud all the time, rowdy. And I was like, man, this kid just does not be quiet. He just can sit down. But, I grew an appreciation for him because as you all probably know who are listening, he has a heart of gold. He is somebody who will help you even if he can't. But it's just so funny to reflect how much also, Tajani, I've known you and how much I've seen you grow throughout these years. It's been more than what? Like, I feel like. Yeah,
senior year was 2011, so it's about to be like 10 years or something.
Right?
Yeah, it's been a long time. And that's when you became my mentor. But I've seen you around the early identification program. You were just not directly my mentor. Mm-hmm. So we've been around each other for a longer time, just like my wife. And that comes into the next question. Were you also my wife's mentor?
I was. Yasmin was one of my mentees. And I also met Yasmin the same year I met Tajani. And funny story, they didn't even talk at all. Like, at all. Like I said, Tajani was the loud, obnoxious, very like, Miss Bianca, this. And Yasmin was just so quiet, studious, very obedient, like complete opposites.
Wow, I don't remember the Tajani you're describing. I don't know who that is. But and Yasmin and I didn't know her. So even if she was in my class, I just never had any interaction with her because she was coming from a different county. Yeah. She was Prince William and I was Fairfax. So we had a little rivalry going on because we in Fairfax we tend to think that we are more better than the Prince William students because they didn't even have lunch over there.
Yeah, I remember that. It was, no. But then who would have known, right?
That's right.
Years later, you were sitting right next to your wife and you had no idea.
That is crazy. That's a crazy story. We could save that story for another day. Because we could spend the whole entire episode just breaking down me and Yasmin's relationship and how opposite we are and how that's Johnny you're describing, obnoxious, and how Yasmin is so calm and relaxed. And now we are living together.
Yes.
We're living together and she's my wife and she's great and I love her. So that's being a mentor. So I have to ask you the question. Who was your favorite mentee between me and Yasmin? Oh, and don't lie to me now. La Verdad Duele.
You can't do that to me. I love both of you. You guys know this, okay?
I think a little birdie told me that I was your favorite because I made you work harder and always put you on your toes.
Perhaps that love had definitely grew, but yes, no, I love both of you guys, like for real, and I'm just so honored to be in both of y'all's life.
We are honored to have you in our lives, and we know that we can always count on you. And so you mentioned briefly about your PhD thoughts. Mm-hmm. You're not in a PhD program yet, no. But it's been running through your head, and you also mentioned your sorority, and you have people that are PhD holders in your sororities. You have doctors in your sororities. So who are some of your mentors growing up?
Sure. Well, I mean, for even when I was younger, so even before like I even joined college or joined my sorority or anything, mentors for me were like you mentioned, kind of your coaches. So right. I played basketball and soccer throughout my life. I was a good baller back in the day.
No way. Yeah. we gotta take it to the court.
I said back in the day to Johnny. Okay. But those are the individuals that I looked up to because they provided, again, those tools at that age that I needed, that communication that I needed, that motivation. But then again, programs like early identification program, when I got into George Mason's STEP, like those individuals became like mentors for me. And then when I was in college, that's when I learned more about my sorority, and the women that were in my sorority that were older, that had those careers and stuff, were my mentors.
Right, that's really good. And another thing, we mentioned how young people could look for mentors through like networking, or finding mentors within their teachers, the school administrators, their coaches in middle school, high school. But how do people like us, people like me and you, how do we go back to the community and become mentors to these young people? It's not just them seeking us, but us knowing that we have a responsibility, because growing up we were fortunate to have mentors. So now we have a responsibility to go back and mentor these young people. What do you think about that?
I completely agree with you 100%. I always tell people, you are not like where you've been, by yourself. Like there was clearly, you had help. And me particularly, like for me, if it wasn't for the individuals that pushed me, that guided me, that, sent me to these certain programs, that provided me the tools to get to these internships, I wouldn't be where I am now. So what I've done, a couple things, especially like these past couple months with everything going on with COVID. I have been invited to like different career panels. Mm-hmm. One particularly with with George Mason was with the Hispanic Student Association.
Right.
So that was a great opportunity to talk to seniors that are about to graduate from college, even juniors and sophomores that were there, to kind of, give them a motivation and to give them also, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like, not a lot of people know about public health, but there is so many opportunities. And then recently I actually got invited to talk to this program called LVD Scholars in Massachusetts. And again, this was through a person that I knew that I met through a program, and we just linked up, and he was like, hey, like, I'm a director for this program, and we're going to have a career panel through Zoom for high school seniors. Like, can you please come and tell them a little about your career? So I always think, giving back to me not only fills my cup, but it teaches me so much.
Right.
Like, I think, and that's the important thing. Like, yes, you are, yes, you have your career. Yes, I have, my degrees, but you have to remember where you came from. And to me, that's why it's so important to give back, to hold that mentorship role. And especially like within my career, like, I know that there's different organizations that are always seeking mentors. So for me to commit to something, like, I do want to, hey, I'm going to sign up and be a mentor for this program. But, I push people, like, if that's something that you're going to do, commit to it, because it's important, for somebody to look up to you and for you to teach them the tools of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, you mentioned to remember where you came from. That's a very important statement right there. Remember where you came from, because along the way you needed somebody's help, and somebody reached out and assisted you and helped you. And so you have to know that there are also people in where you came from that also require your help. And so how do you get opportunities where you can go back and give back to the community? First of all, you have to remember where you came from. And so you have to stay connected to where you came from. That's how you know the issues in your community. For somebody like Bianca, she is connected with the community with her work, her professional work, her personal life. She's connected with her family. She's connected with friends from her sorority. She's connected with sisters all over the place. So she knows exactly what's going on in the community. So for somebody who hasn't been connected to their community, one way to be connected to your community is just knowing about the resources within the community. You can try to go back to your high school, or you can look up nonprofit organizations in the community that are working with young people and how you can play a part in it. The Juvenile Detention Center, nonprofit organization, adult support groups, all of these places are always looking for adult mentors or advisors that can serve as a resource to young people and people going through problems in life, to help these young people that are like from 12 years old to 18 years old that are going through hard times right now, and they need somebody that they can lean on, somebody that can talk to them and be like, hey man, the route that you're going right now is not the best route for you, but these are some of the options, these are some of the things that are available to you, these are some of the resources you can take advantage of, because we know that you are young and you still have a lot of life to live. And so your potential is still out there, and you can change where you're heading right now. And so you need that mentor, somebody that you can talk to. So this is important things, isn't it?
Yes, preach to Johnny, preach.
We're not trying to preach here. It's just about, staying connected with the community, because it's important.
Yeah, it's so important. Like, because I feel like for me, I already know my job is stressful some days. So knowing that I can, give back to my community, even if it's just something as simple as asking for donations. Like, I know people think, people are always like, you're always doing something in this, but that's the way, I feel like we have to give back.
Right. You matter of fact, you've been doing a lot of work in Puerto Rico prior to COVID-19. When COVID-19 came, it just increase the amount of work that you're doing, because in Puerto Rico, like you said, when the earthquakes hit, you've been raising funds to rebuild that community.
Yeah, so it was that experience was something of itself. So first off, I just want to, give a shout out to Puerto Rico in general. Puerto Rico has been through so much in these past couple of years, from Zika to the hurricane and to all the injustices that we're going through, the politics, and now these earthquakes, and now COVID. But the earthquakes opened my eyes to how my community and how my village is so important, and so like helpful. Like I did not think that I was gonna get as much support as I did. So my sorority sister Emily, who lives in Puerto Rico with me as well, we both decided, hey, like on different platforms, different, like events, but we were like, we need to do something for our communities, and we decided to raise funds so we can buy supplies to bring to the families in need, and also we ended up building homes. So, like we ended up raising money enough to build, like temporary homes for individuals who lost everything.
Wow, that's amazing. And this is also important what you just said, because you don't know how your village or your tribe or your community will respond to your request until you ask for it. And so a lot of the times we think that, oh yeah, we don't know if people would actually support this event. We don't know if people will actually contribute to this event until you ask. So that is very important. When you need help, you have to make the effort to ask and put all the pride behind you, because the work that you're doing, if you had an inch of pride, then it's not only a disservice to yourself, but it's a disservice to the people of Puerto Rico, because they are the beneficiaries.
Yeah, I mean, how I saw it as, you never know, like, until you ask.
Right.
And we honestly thought, my goal was just to raise $1,000. Like, I was like, I'm just going to raise $1,000, and my coworkers and I were just going to buy supplies and bring it down just one time. Now, we ended up going like 7 to 8 times with materials. We ended up raising like $3,000 or close to maybe even 4. Like, it was just, like, I can't even put it into words, because it just meant so much that, individuals believed in me, that individuals, were, willing to help and everything for just, the community.
That's amazing. So before we come to the conclusion, and is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of mentorship? If a young person is looking for a mentor or somebody that needs to go back to their community, is there anything that you need to add concerning your mentorship? If not, then is there anything that you want to say to young people that are interested in public health? What would be some of the things that they should be looking forward to, or a place that they can start?
Sure. So I think something for me, like, I'm looking back, if someone would, I wish these were the things that maybe somebody I wish would have told me. One would be just to learn more about public health careers within different organizations. So I wish I would have learned more about the CDC when I was younger. I wish I would have learned more about programs or different positions in the World Health Organization and big corporations like that, because I didn't really, again, I was sheltered and I just thought I was going to be a doctor or a nurse. So nowadays, with the internet, with our phones being so accessible, because also Bianca did not have a cell phone until she was 18. So I didn't have, a computer like that at home either. We had dial up. Like, it was like, nowadays, I feel like there's no excuse for individuals. Like, if you have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, you have time to open a LinkedIn. And I think nowadays, like, that is the first thing you need to do. Open a LinkedIn. There's so many free tutorials about LinkedIn. Building that LinkedIn account, getting to know the different organizations that are in the LinkedIn accounts. And it's something as simple as, like, also, like, Twitter. I'm not a big person on Twitter, but I'm learning it more because it's so crucial, like,
right,
to follow different organizations. That's where they post everything. Like, I didn't realize, like, how heavy information was on Twitter. But that would be one of my suggestions, is to open your LinkedIn account, get to know different organizations, and also listen to the free seminars. There's so many free seminars, especially right now with COVID, within public health. And I'm a strong believer of learning. I am proudly 31 years old, and there's not one day that I don't learn something new.
Wow.
And it's something as simple as just listening to a podcast, listening to a free seminar, or even just having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot since COVID-19 hit. A lot of the things that you would have normally paid for became free. Like, a lot of colleges and universities have free resources that people can access online. So if you have access to Facebook, Instagram, you should definitely be able to Google or open up a LinkedIn account, just like Bianca was saying. So before we let you go, we asked you to prepare a little letter that you could have wrote to a younger self, to a younger Bianca, looking back what would have been the words that you would send to that younger Bianca as she grows up to become the amazing and young and accomplished woman that you are right now?
I would have said the following. I would have said, "Dear younger Bianca, you did it. You are amazing. Life will be filled with so many chapters. Some will be good and some will be bad. But the thing is, about those bad chapters, they will shape you to the person who you are. Just keep turning those pages and remember that you're strong, powerful, and God has given you a purpose in life, and that is to use your voice. Many people will look up to you. You will have a huge village, not only throughout the States, but in Puerto Rico. Don't forget where you came from, Bianca, and always remember to dream big and remember your worth. I love you so much, future Bianca."
Wow. Amazing. You are strong. You are powerful. Use your voice. You'd have a huge village behind you. Don't forget where you came from. Dream big. Remember your worth. You are loved. Those are just powerful statements, and those are just powerful words to send back to the younger Bianca. Thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you really took something away from this episode. We had so much fun recording this episode. And so, like I said to you, Bianca is my mentor. She was my mentor growing up. And me and my wife are still fortunate to call her a mentor. Whenever we go through something that we need advice, and somebody that we trusted and somebody that we can call on speed dial, Bianca is always there. And she's always been there for us. And so this is why she was the person that I invited to come to the studio to talk about mentorship, because she is somebody that I've looked up to, and she is somebody that has inspired me to do what I'm doing and what I am going to do in the future. Because if you remember on the last episode, my wife decided that to make an exclusive announcement on the episode about me going back to school. So I'll be going back to school to study public health.
Hashtag Team Public Health.
That's right, because of Bianca. And prior to me making that decision, I actually called her. We talked about that. She talked to me about PHAP, which I applied at the time, but I didn't get it because I didn't meet all the requirements. After applying, most recently we had communication where I asked her for more words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, Bianca is amazing. And so that leads me to leave you with her contact information. You can reach her at Instagram is the best way to follow her at This Latina Travels, ThisLatina Travels, TRAVELS. If you have questions about anything public health related, or you just want somebody to talk to, I'm sure Bianca wouldn't mind it. You can follow her on Instagram, Miss Bianca Alba. Thank you so much for coming to the studio and for sharing your wisdom with the LVD family.
Thank you so much to Johnny for having me. Like I've always said to many people, you are somebody that inspires me to do even more. And I'm so grateful and thankful for our friendship. So thank you for having me. And again, reach out to me if you guys have any questions. I'm an open book.
There you have it, everybody. If you're listening to this still, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening through and through. Make sure if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button so you can get this automatically downloaded the next time new episodes come out. We have a lot more experiences and stories to tell, and I cannot wait to share them with you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Reviews are always appreciated. Thank you. I appreciate you, and let me know what you think on our Instagram at Verdad Duele Pod. Our team is here to serve you. We look forward to hearing about your successes, and maybe one day we may invite you to the studio to share. We wish you luck. The Verdad Duele family has your back. Thank you so much.